Hey guys, Edre here, and today I'm going to be doing a brand new album review. I am going to be reviewing the new Network album, Money Money 2020, Part 2, We Told You So. But before I get into this review, I want to cover a few things regarding how I'm going to be approaching stuff on my channel from this point forward. So, if you saw my video I put out not too long ago, it was kind of talking about how I want things to be casual here. I don't want this to be too professional because quite general, at the end of the day, I get a bit tired sometimes of trying every single day to listen and find new music. So I'm only going to be really listening and reviewing and doing all that on Fridays and Saturdays. Those are the only days a week I'm going to be really recording these. However, don't take that the wrong way because I'm still going to be scattering my uploads throughout the entire week. So I'm not just going to be uploading on Fridays and Saturdays. But I will always upload on a Friday and a Saturday. But you can also expect videos throughout the entire week of new albums and all that. Because I just don't want to overwhelm myself. The Network. The Network is essentially Green Day's side project in which they never really admit it because it's sort of the running gimmick, the running joke. And the Network came back just a few weeks ago with the Trans Am EP, but their actual debut album is all the way back in 2003 with Money Money 2020, just right before American Idiot came out. They are back though. And I will say, I find it a little funny how after Green Day's album, which in my opinion was their worst studio album, came out, Billy kind of went straight into doing cover songs, and now they have this back. It's almost as if they're trying to distract people from Father of All. But a bit of background with my liking of Green Day, I've been a pretty big Green Day fan for pretty much forever. Although I do prefer almost everything they did in the 90s versus everything they did after the 90s, I still went into this kind of with some positive expectations because even though, I mean, I haven't been a big fan of many Green Day albums recently. I mean, Father of All I wasn't too big on. Revolution Radio, it was alright, but I wasn't too crazy on it. The Trilogy I thought was very bloated. At the end of the day, I haven't been too satisfied with any Green Day releases, period, over the past decade. So going into this, I was a bit nervous, but after hearing that EP, I definitely got my hopes up a little much because I started to get very excited for this because at the end of the day, I liked the sound, I liked the more new wave, kind of satirical tone on the Network's EP, and I think that it's a great idea for them to go forward and do a full studio album. And oh boy, did they do a full studio album. With 25 songs, this album really covers very new wave synth pop sounds as well as a bit of synth punk in there as well. And even though it has a very dark kind of sound much like the EP, many of the songs are very short and to the point. They are over very quick, and while that can be a negative depending on how you interpret it, I personally thought that most of them didn't need to last too long. Most of them got the point across pretty early, and I was left relatively satisfied with the lengths of most of these songs. A few of them I wish were a little longer, but for the most part, I was relatively satisfied. Musically, they really do stick with that new wave sound, a very 80s sounding new wave, but blend it with that traditional Green Day style that we've all come to know and love. And with a bit of a dark edge in there as well. And I will actually say that this album sounds even more passionate and more relevant than even the EP sounded, an EP that I was kind of fond of. You know, despite the dark tone, many of the tracks here do have an upbeat, sort of positive tone to them, which I really enjoyed. Asphyxia could easily be one of those songs that could be most reworked into a Green Day song and has that very upbeat, very energetic, very fun tone to it. I thought that was one of the best songs on here. And that song, too, is also kind of structured like the band The Queers. It sounds like it could be reworked to be one of their songs as well. You know, I will say one of the songs that was really reminiscent of the Misfits in that style of punk is Carolina's Ultimate Netflix Dream. That song really did have a very kind of punky, very like that Misfits sound to them. I thought that was a really well executed track as well. I also found that there is a very post-punk flair on many of the tracks here as well. Degenerate also has a bit of a garage rock tone to it, reminiscent of the work they did on Father of All, but just executed so much better than Father of All. Tarantula as well is kind of like that. Even Cancer is the New Black has that killer groove with a bit of that post-punk garage rock revival sound, but done in a way that just feels much more honest, much more passionate, much more fun and energetic than anything on Father of All. There's even a bit of a Western flair on the song Art of the Deal with the Devil. I also want to talk about two of the songs on here that are probably two of my favorite songs, not only that I've heard from the network, but just from Billy and the Gang over the past 10 years. Fentanyl. This was on the EP. I talked about it on my EP review. But this may be one of my favorite songs that Billy and the Gang have put together in quite a long time. With a killer vocal melody, a killer bassline groove, the whole song is just very well structured, very well put together, and to me is the epitome of the network. I think that Fentanyl is the best song on this album, and one of the best songs I've heard Billy do in a long time. And the Jerry Falwells song is another one that has a very 80s funky, even Bowie-esque flair to it, that it could be on Let's Dance or something. But that's another one that I think is one of the most well-executed songs on the album. I love the more dance-oriented, the more funky sound on that song. Excellent track. Now, don't get me wrong here. I do think there is a bit of negative on it. I don't think this is a perfect album by any means. I do think, that Ivanka's a Nazi is a fun party song, but at its core, it's a bit of a weak song. Same with Flat Earth. I feel that way too. And even though some of the songs like Pizzagate is a fun instrumental, I don't feel like an album of this magnitude really needs that many instrumental interludes on this project. I think in many ways it takes away from the album when you have so many instrumental interlude or just small songs like that. Lyrically, I want to talk a little bit about the lyrical themes of this album. There's a fair amount of satirical commentary on the state of the world in 2020, theory of reality, Ivanka is a Nazi, even the title of the track, Pizzagate, all sort of is about the political landscape and all of that. And I think one of the songs that really does take a real big stab at 2020 in general is Respirator, which is about an anti-masker who gets COVID and is on a respirator. And for the most part, these songs are written in a very satirical, nice way that they're just very entertaining and fun while they still get the point across. And that is something that has been missing on many Green Day projects as of late. I feel like even though an album like Father of All is a very out there, very goofy album, I just feel like the band took themselves a bit too seriously on there. And same goes with Revolution Radio, an album in which I don't hate. I do think Revolution Radio is fine. I just think that there's too many songs that take themselves too seriously. If Green Day was a bit more lighthearted, I feel like they would be a bit more successful these days. And that is what makes this album so fun and appealing to me, is that even though musically I think it is a very solid, strong, new wave album, even though the songs are very short and there is a few filler songs on there, I think that they really execute this style quite well. And from a lyrical standpoint, even though it's very satirical and is written in a way that can be very entertaining and it's easy to write it off, they kind of get the message across that, things are kind of messed up right now, and they do it in a way that's fun and entertaining at the same time that comes across very genuine. Overall, well, there is quite a few of short songs on here that I wish got a little longer, and it is a very satirical album. This is arguably the most enjoyable work I have heard from Billy and the Gang in quite some time. I've already gone over many of the albums. I already reviewed Father of All on this channel. And I just genuinely think that this is a project that is much more fun. I could tell they put their heart into it. I could tell they got much more enjoyment from it. And to be fair, I got so much more enjoyment from this album. I thought that it was a very, very solid stab at this style of music. And I was left very satisfied with this album. Now, I still have some pretty, decent flaws with the album. It's far from being perfect. I wish things were a bit more drawn out. I wish they were a bit more grand. Instead, a lot of them are cut short. But at the end of the day, Billy and the Gang and the network really did deliver with an album to me that was sort of the album I've been waiting for from the guys from Green Day. Even if this is a side project, I have settled on giving the network Money Money 2020 Part 2 a decent 7 out of 10. And I'm pretty solid. I'm pretty solid with that score. Anything above a 5 is good. Anything below a 5 is negative. So that is actually a really positive review. Not my most positive, but I did get general enjoyment from this. I wouldn't say this is the most revolutionary album I've ever heard. Even in this style of music, I've heard some artists do it better. But I just will say that the fact that they put their all into it, they had fun while making it, and the end result was satisfying not only to them, but the listener. I was left feeling a 7 on this one. And just to close off this, I want to make it clear that I might be getting I'm a little more casual now. I want my reviews to be a little more casual than they usually are, just because this isn't my career. I don't want this to be so professional and stingy and career-like. I want this just to be a fun hobby of mine, so that is why I just kind of talk a little bit more here. That is it for now. Money 2020 Part 2. We told you so. By the network. Decent 7 out of 10. I'm just glad that there's finally an album from Billy and just from the guys in general that I could genuinely say I thoroughly enjoyed. That is it for now, and goodbye.